So, we had three, but one of them ended up having to have some things that they had to do, so we don't have a three tonight. So we have one more, and it's Morgan. And another young lady that I've known forever, literally, before you. But it's really awesome to have family that you see growing in God and getting closer to God and seeking God and getting excited about His Word. And I've talked to her about this in the past and a couple weeks, and it's awesome to see the excitement that someone would have when they dig into the Word of God and say, hey, I have something that I want to speak on. And it's the excitement that comes out. And it's even, for me, it's a little bit even more exciting when it's a relative. I mean, she's my niece. So it's good to see family growing and all of you. And so, you ready? All right? All right.
You probably can't see it, but I am shaking like a leaf. I am not a public speaker by any means. Yes, Michaela, you just went through the same thing. Can anybody give me a definition of a season? Like, what is seasons?
Winter.
A definition.
Changing of
Wow. You ruined my family.
the weather.
But, yeah, changing of what?
A period of time.
Thank you. Changing of period of
Good job,
time.
Timmy, good job.
If we could turn to Ecclesiastes 3. I'm actually not going to read it, but I'm going to have somebody read it for me. Whoever wants to read? Anybody?
What did you say?
Ecclesiastes 3. Does anybody want to read?
Ecclesiastes 3 what?
1 through 8. They're super easy, super simple.
I have it.
Do you want to read it?
I can do it.
Go ahead.
To everything there is a season, a time for every purpose under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck what is planted, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to gain and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to throw away, a time to tear and a time to sow, a time to keep silence and a time to speak, a time to love, a time to hate, a time of war and a time of peace.
I know it's a mouthful. It's a mouthful. But that is what I'm going to preach about tonight. Seasons not only are changing of the weather, but also in our lives. We go through adolescence, teenage, adulthood, and then to our elderly stages. Well, for the beginning, the adolescent stage, it's where you are getting love from your family and your friends, and in a way that protects you as an armor to deal with what's to come. And let's face it, teenage years, they're not easy. Like, I don't think anybody's ever had an easy teenage life, honestly. I just heard her preach it, okay. And even if you had a hard time with your family or friends, there was always God with you, even though you couldn't see Him. You know, He was there through everything, holding your hand, even stuff you're still going through. But He loved you even before you were you, before your mother conceived you. He knew before you who you are now and who you will be. And that's just God. That's the amazing thing about Him, is that He knows what's to come for you. Okay. For your teenage years, like I said, they're not easy. Some of you, I know, were told, don't grow up too fast. Stay young. You don't know what it comes with to grow up. And some of those things that you come with are bills, relationship problems, your body changes in drastic ways, figuring out what you want to be as a person, and leaving home. But little do you know that there are things happening in the spiritual world as well that you can't see. like making your walk with God stronger. The devil is realizing he has to get off his butt and come after you because every time you fall to your knees, his plans unravel. You start getting involved with church and ministry, and you learn to teach about God to others. Laying down your pride and going before God and asking for something you need that no one else can give you but God. Even though you can't see the spiritual happenings around you, you don't think that they're not happening, that they're not there, just because you can't see them. But there's so many things that you go through as even an early teenager that you might not have to deal with as an older teenager. And I know a lot of us in here have not had easy starts, even as an adolescent. I mean, I know some of you, your personal experiences were never easy with anything. You had to work and earn what you have. But as an adult, that means you're on your own and you can do whatever you want now. But again, you still have those responsibilities. Some people will start families and jobs and live a fruitful life. Depends on what God has laid out for you. But some of you will be missionaries and evangelists and pastors and praise singers and musicians. But some of you will just sit in a pew because, let's face it, without people in a pew, people up on the altar, they mean nothing. It means nothing if you can't teach anybody. I mean, we can sing and preach to our heart's delight, but if there's not somebody here listening to us, it means nothing. But even when we're at our weakest, God is there with us, showing us that we can do this. We may not be able to do it by ourselves, but we're not supposed to. We're supposed to lean on God to say, hey, I can't do this, I need you. That's what he's there for. If we were supposed to do this by ourselves, there wouldn't be a need for God. Can you imagine that? Not a need for God. That I can't even imagine. But we have to stand up for those who aren't strong enough to. For people out in the world who don't even know who God is. I mean, I run across a lot of people who they haven't even heard the name of God. And to me, that's a life force. That's something I need daily. And in writing this, I realized, I'll be honest, I thought reading the Bible was as boring as it could get. But making this, every time I would open my Bible and I would finish with whatever process I was doing, I'd be like, you know what, I don't want to go read a book. I don't want to go watch a movie. I just want to sit here and I want to read more. It consumed me for that day. And even yesterday, I actually had to take off work because I got so consumed that I couldn't think about anything else. And that's how it is with God, is once you really realize what you're doing, you're like, oh, now I get it. Okay, I got this. But no one ever said life was easy, and Michaela just preached about scars. And we all know we get scars along the way, like she just said. But like she said, God keeps it clean. To read our Bible and to pray and to go to church, that's what keeps it clean. And even though we have scars, that's when you need to show them off and say, hey, look what I did, look what God helped me through. But then we get a little older and we move on to our elderly stage. If you remember me saying in the beginning that we would gather love as an armor in the beginning in our adolescence years, well, we've managed to have that carry us through all of these stages that are so hard. But at the end, we've come through with experience and confidence in the Word of God and have watched the next generation come forth. And a need to show that the same love you were given as a child, you can share experience and love to show the will of God to them. It's kind of like one big circle until God says, okay, it's time to go home. The rapture happens, you know? And I know a lot of people fear that, but it's something to be happy for. We're finally going to leave this place. I mean, like I said, there's a lot of stuff that happens in our life we don't like. And if we could live without all of that, wouldn't you pick that? Wouldn't you work to get toward that goal of not having to go through that pain and suffering all the time? I mean, I know I would. But sometimes you'll feel alone or distraught. But he's been with you this whole time holding your hand, and you don't even realize it sometimes. I mean, I've been through some really sucky stuff, pardon my language. But, I mean, but it wasn't until I got into youth and I started realizing, you know, the more things that I do that have to do with God, I'm realizing it's bearable. I can live day to day if I can just get out of bed and I can pray or I can read my Bible. I admit sometimes I don't do it faithfully. But sometimes I just have to get up and say, you know what, this is what's right, this is what I need to do. I can't help it. And that's what gets you through, is that you realize that he's right there. And when you come to church and you can feel his presence in worship or preaching or an altar call, you're sitting there thinking, wow, I never thought that. Or you'll get a strange idea in the middle of the day when you're at work, and you're like, oh, that's really cool, I didn't realize that. But he's not making you go through everything you're going to go through to watch you in pain or suffering. He's doing it to make sure you can jump the next hurdle. He's going to make sure you go through the little hurdles to get to the bigger ones, to get to him. It's kind of like an obstacle course to get to God. But I swear to you, to get to God is the biggest prize you'll ever get. I mean, in Acts 1:7, it says, and he said unto them, it is not for you to know the times or the seasons which the Father hath put in his own power. It means you're not supposed to know what comes next, because you may not be prepared for that yet. He's slowly building you into a person of God, into a spiritual being. And you need, I know it sounds hard to just do it willingly, just to do it with seeing nothing ahead of you. But sometimes you have to find your footing. And that's what he's there for. Not to be like, oh, you can do this on your own. When a toddler is learning to walk, you don't see them just get up and walk away. You have to grab their hands and you have to walk them through life. That's what he's doing with us. It seems hard now, but he's still walking with it. He's still holding our hands, holding up, saying, I'm right here if you need me. And it may feel like forever, but you have to remember that he's not late. He's just working on his own time schedule. I know it must sound mean today, but it's not all about you. There are you're set in this life, maybe for somebody else, maybe for a friend or a family or a parent. You're the one that is responsible for yourself and only yourself. But you may lead others to this truth that will get them through those times. I've had friends commit suicide because they couldn't handle it. And I always knew I could have done something. I could have brought them to church. Maybe if they had God, it would be bearable. And the world is hard, and so is life. But that's what we're here for. We're not here to have an easy life. Because if we all had it easy, we wouldn't learn anything. And if we don't learn anything, well, we're just stupid. We're all just sitting on our butts being dumb. I don't know about you, but I'm planning on jumping the hurdles to go get the prize. I don't know about you. But I want something to end all of this.
All right.
I don't want to be stuck here forever. I want to be with God and not have to worry about anything anymore. Not to worry if my bills are paid, or if I'm going to lose my house, or if I'm going to get sick, or if a family member dies. I don't want to worry about any of that. I don't want to be sad anymore. I just want to be happy all the time. And I've noticed that being here doing this stuff makes me happy. Even when I'm in a bad mood, I'll turn Caleb on, or I'll turn my IBC CDs on, and I'll have a little preaching session in my car. And it brings me out of my bad mood, and it cheers up my day. And I can go into work and say, hey, how are you doing? My day's been great. And that's what gets me through. Honestly, don't you laugh at me. You know it's true. You do it too. But I don't know about you, but when Uncle Sam first asked me about doing this, I immediately burst into tears because ever since we started the journey, I've been thinking about this. And during that altar call, the Lord came to me and said, I need you to say this. I need you to be strong. I need you to face your fear of public speaking and get your butt up there and go say something. And well, here I am standing up here. I mean, I know I'm only 17. I'm not an adult. I'm not an elderly person. I haven't been through everything. But you know what? As long as I have God, I know I can get through it.
All
I
right.
know I can wake up every day just to get out of bed and go do what I need to do. Whether it's staying at home in my pajamas, reading the Bible, or whipping out my Bible on my break at work. It seems hard at first. Like, I know the motivation. You need the motivation to do it. Sometimes I don't have it, but it's like working out. You don't want to do it, but get that body you want. Yes, but we all know it's true. We all know it's true. But before I came up here, I prayed so hard that I wouldn't be saying all of this to nobody. That it would mean something to somebody. I don't care if it's only one person out of all of you. And I just don't want it to fall on deaf ears. I mean, and I know God wouldn't give me something for nobody. And maybe we're not even here. Maybe we'll post this on Facebook and somebody will share it and somebody will see it. But I just know that I've realized in the last few years that it's like I can't keep this to myself. I can't contain all of this. It's a bigger picture than it for me. It's bigger than everything. I mean, He created everything. How can I say, no, I won't share you. I have to keep you to myself? I mean, how can I say that? I mean, I don't have the right to keep my mouth shut. I don't have the right to say, God, nobody needs you. Because how can you say that about God? And I just hope that at least one of you walks away from something of this, whether it's Michaela or me. I don't care who. As long as somebody gets something out of tonight. I don't care if it was from the first team. I don't care if it's from an altar call. I don't care. As long as you get something from tonight, I'm happy.
Well, I took something out of that. I kind of found that interesting when she said, if we knew what we would have to go through ahead of time, would we even do it? Because we're not ready. There's time. I mean, if someone came up to you when you were, 8 years old and said you're going to be an evangelist to here or a missionary to here, you're not ready for that at that point sometimes, and it's just like it might freak you out, and you might just walk a different path because of that. So being ready is something that we need to achieve. We need to try to get ourselves to a point in our lives that we can be ready for anything that God has for us and anything He does put in our path. I really appreciate you guys for all you've done, all the studying, all the praying, fasting. It's not easy. It's not easy, but you know what? God will bless you. And I know I was blessed tonight, so thank you guys for all you've done. So we can stand.
Yes.
So tonight, let's seek God's face and find out what He does have in store for us. And let's prepare ourselves and get closer to Him because of those things that He might have for us down the road. We don't know what it is, but prepare for it. I mean, when you go on a camping trip, you prepare for it. You know there's going to be some unexpected things, and so you grab some extra items that you don't normally think you would normally need. Well, we don't know what we're going to come across. We don't know what we're going to run into. But at this altar tonight is where we need to reach and seek the face of God and ask Him to equip us with the things that we will need for all the trials, tribulations, and things that can come our way. So tonight, let's just come and just worship our God and seek His face.